you devils out there. Happy Friday. Well, I guess better late than never. Here we are. Oh, it's 4:45 for me on Friday the 7th. Finally getting a little time here to work on this. Now, we've been very busy. Oh, and I almost blew it off. Almost did. Figured I'd do it in the morning, but it's just pouring rain here. It's just kind of a crappy day. And so I figured I'd get this done here. And we'll spin quickly through Bitcoin and ETH, and then spend a little time on the stock indexes, which I think are quite interesting. Maybe a couple of them. We may get some time to look at Tesla and then an AI stock that I think is interesting. So before we get into it, I'll just a reminder here, and one of the reasons that I'm late here is that we're finishing up the brown belt, which is a big undertaking here. But just to remind you here, I'll use that as a segue. You can still join us, as is always the case. You can join us for free if you're interested in the belt system here, which is kind of our marquee product. Well, of course, the white belt still free, right? For subs, of course, you all know this. But for any of you YouTube subs that are new to us, that's 4 hours of training in there. Totally free. It kind of gets you in the system, and you get some limited access into the Discord. But the biggest course of all is that we've done yet is the brown belt here, and so that's a big undertaking. So probably another 2 weeks to produce it. But we finished the content. We're getting really close. But each of these courses now available individually, so you don't have to be tied to some sort of a monthly schedule. You can buy them all at once, one at a time, multiples, whatever fits your budget and your level of interest. So just a reminder, that's always still available to you. Of course, the other option is just join us in the Discord here, where you'll find a lot of content, a lot of like-minded traders. And actually, I always find myself reminding people that are new to this, you're going to interact much more with my sensei, my teams, than you will with me. They're the ones who really drive the Discord inside of it. My time is split between the two businesses and just a lot of different things. Running this business, so my team, I think you'll find will be quite helpful, and you'll interact with them, I think, much more actively than you do with me. So all of that said, just reminding you here that, and this was very much of a team project, putting the brown belt together. All right, so all of that said here, let's take a quick peek here at Bitcoin. It has not moved since last Friday, really, has it? So there's not a lot to add here until we break this out of this consolidation, whether it's up or down, to give us some clue as to where we're headed next. Can we label it? Well, yeah, it's anybody's guesstimate. It's a bit ugly. It's interesting. The TA applying Elliott to the assets, well, certainly the stock indexes, is really quite challenging at the moment. Just enough to be on the fringe of rule breaks or guideline breaks here. So there's interesting scenarios here, which we'll look at in a second. With Bitcoin here, as we sit, still working off of the idea that we're going to live with this unusual finish of this, the X here being an A, B, C into the low, and then we get an impulse coming off of it. So the impulse, of course, was all very good, right? This is just looks great. Oh, pardon me here. So we had 3, 4, 5, and this is the 2. Jeez, I didn't do that. I'm going too fast. The completed impulse, probably a combo correction. Now, what are we doing here? All right, is that an impulse? Is it it's certainly. Can we squeeze an impulse in there? Yes. It's not particularly. What would you say? Well formed. How would you say it that way? But it doesn't appear to be corrective at the moment. So as we sit here. So could it be something other than just a one way? Well, certainly it could. We got to see how it resolves here. I think the next test here is when we come down here to some of this structure. Right? So even if you just did it like this and kind of pulled all of that prior resistance over here, as we come back into that, I think that will be telling as to where we're likely to head next. Right? Do we hold, test, free fall? Little retrace, and then we're back on with the bull trend. Very much remains to be seen. There's the TA is not giving us much in the way of any clues here. Even looking below, we're sitting in a squeeze. Momentum's drifting. There's just not a lot to work with here, right? We just got to let the market show its hand here. So I think that's all the time required to spend on Bitcoin. There's not really a trade here. If you're long on something with leverage, I'd be I'd be tight with stops here. There's just no telling what comes out. Well, we're in a squeeze, right? So from the contraction comes expansion. We don't know which way that's going to go coming out of there. There's no tremendous, clue that the market is offering to us. So this would be a hurry up and wait for any fresh new trades, would my view, for what that's worth. ETH, perhaps a little bit more interesting because there are more scenarios here, but of course the exact same movement off of the low. Okay, do we have do we get a 3, 4, 5? So is this 3, 4, 5 to complete the 1? Similar, right? Similar correction, likely a combo. It looks similar, but there's a little bit more to work with over here. What am I? I'm on a 2 hour here. There's a little bit more to dig into here. Off of this 2, looks like I can get a good impulse here, and it's clean. All the subdivisions there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we go into this sideways mess here. Can we label it? Yeah, it looks like, I got a little assist here from our newest sensei, who's a level 3 certified Elliott Wave analyst. He's really got great Elliott chops, as I said. Right, you're gonna interact with the team much like I do when I get stuck on something. And he and I went back and forth on this, and I think the WXY here into the A, because of the series of 3s, has the best fit. Now, coming off of this, it's a little bit much like Bitcoin in that we need to get a little more reveal from the market. This could be A, B, C of an expanded B, and we've done an A, here's the B, and we'd be looking for 5 to come down. There's the reasonable case that we've started on a 1 here, 2, 3, 4. We'd come down for the 5. That would complete the flat, right? 3, 3, 5. Okay, maybe, but for the more bullishly minded, there is the potential that this could be a 1-2. We could have a 1-2, 1-2. Would make this the WXY would complete the correction. It would be very shallow, obviously, right? Very shallow, but I mean not like it's unheard of. Oh, let's bring it back here. In between the 23 and the 38, it's not like it doesn't happen. It's just not the high probability, right? So it's kind of the same thing, right? We need to get a little bit more reveal from the market as to what we're doing here, because these are technical, right? So if I go from here, if that's the A wave, let's see, let's use the pivot here because the algo won't care. Where there's 50 to the tick, we looked at this last week. There's first, second. Okay, sure. Look at this point, it looks like a 3, right? It looks like expanded B. Oh, now we're starting on the 1, 2, right? It's just as we went through that. But it could be 1, 2, 1, 2. It could be. So the 2 would be in over here, and this would be 1, 2, 1, 2. Well, let's dig in there a little bit closer here. This does look like, what have we got here? That's the volume profile. It looks like 1, 2, 3, triangle, 4, 5. So for candidate for the 1 here. I think that fits better than if it's 1, 2, and this is 1, and we're trying to get this into a. Oh shit! I suppose we could finish the impulse here and do this and then go. Kind of the same thing. It's not quite good enough to where you'd say, oh God, I see it clearly. Time to rip. I mean, we're on the other side of the 200. Right, that's the God EMA. We're on the other side of the 200. That's the EMA SMA combo. You wouldn't really tee that up and think, oh, it's perfect. I guess that's what I'm trying to get to here. Could you trade it? Well, of course, right? Shit. Of course you can't, right? Do you have a high probability? There's nothing that I would feel comfortable recommending to members or YouTube subs here, viewers, so you kind of look for counsel here. I think this is a hurry up and wait. We got to see what we're doing here. I know there's a lot of that. That is the hard part of trading, waiting, being patient, waiting for the setup that you're, what do you call it, waiting for your pitch, right? Whatever it is that you like to see, I don't think we have enough here to really do anything other than maybe nibble at something, right? If you're a bull and you're thinking 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, well, one, say it out loud, right? And catch yourself a little bit. Because actually it would be one. What we'd actually have is off the low. We'd have the macro, the big picture, 1, 2, 1, 2, right? That's a lot of 1 2s. 1 2 1 2 1 2. So I think it's 5 1 2s in a row. From the big picture down to the little micro swings here, every time I catch myself thinking, oh, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Usually the market has a way of reducing the number of 1s and 2s that will come out of it. But we shall see, right? It remains to be seen. And certainly the sentiment is bullish in crypto. We'll see if the oversight, government intervention, call it what you will, is gonna squash that. Remains to be seen, but I don't think there's anything to rush into here. I think what this is great. It's a great chart to work on your TA skills. I don't think this is a great trading chart. Honestly, I think there's better choices here, but we look at the majors. But I think a real challenge to see if you can come up with a count here that you like. Now you don't. If you were to stop watching and pull it up right now, you might not remember mine, and if you wait an hour, you definitely won't remember. See what you come up with here. I think this is really a challenging chart here, and no real easy answer. Oh, now, so, all right, what am I, 11 minutes in? Let's get, do we want to stay with the hard ones here? Well, let's do that here. So the S&P we've been looking at. So I've been doing Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the S&P. The S&P here, this is really challenging, Elliott, because you're forced to compromise. There's no way around it. Well, based on the amount of time that I've spent with it here, which is more than a little, I don't think there's a way around a compromise here. That you can't. I don't see. Well, let me rephrase that. I don't see a clear count here that you can get without a slight little bend of a rule or a guideline. Now, I had been doing this last couple of weeks in the futures, and I thought I would just go to the SPX, to the index itself, and see if I got any more clarity here. And I don't know if it's any better. It's just as challenging here for the Elliottician. Now, I will say this, and someone pointed this out last week. Because there's no clean count here, often what you're forced to do is just go with the implied swing structure that the market's offering. So as we look at it right here, it's pretty hard not to see a candidate here for a 5 coming down. Now, obviously, dramatic overlap here. So your thought would be, oh, it's a 5-3, 5-3-5 leading diag. Well, as a purist would be quick to point out, and I had one point out to me last week because I didn't take the time to, and I should have, mentioned that I was, well, there were alternate counts here and that I was on the edge of a guideline. Well, not on the edge. I was breaking a rule guideline. Let's call it somewhere in between the two. And the reason that a purist is going to have a problem with that is because if this is the 1 and that's the 2, well, I can look here. Well, my 3 is good, but my 5th for a leading diag, which this would be, is not longer than the 3rd, right? So I would have the gap here, right? So we're not longer here. So the purist would immediately disqualify this as a leading diag. I'm not that much a purist, right? And I think there are times where you've got to compromise here. I mean, the swing structure, hard not to see the 5, the 3, the 5, the 3, the 5. But, right, we want to acknowledge, and I should have done it. We want to acknowledge when we're breaking a rule or just dealing with what the market is offering here. Now, that said, I have the alternate on here to see if it played any better. I mean, was the mistake just being cavalier about the 5 swings and just going, oh, fuck, it's a leading diag, who cares? So just in wanting to explore, was it cleaner if I worked through rules and guidelines? And I'll be damned if you can get it done. You got a couple of spots here where you just can't be absolutely pure. 1, 2, 3, we're overlapping here, so we can't call it an impulse, right? Can't call it an impulse, right? There are certain things, rules that, I mean, that is mighty close right there if you look at that, but it's enough, right? I mean, they're just wicks going through, but they're enough to where a purist is going to disqualify, right? So cannot be an impulse, and I think I'd be inclined to agree with that. But the idea of a leading diag remains a contender. But let's just assume that you couldn't live with that, and you wanted to go with something closer to established rules and guidelines. Well, then you're going to have to do it as an ABC. And that is not a whole lot better, actually, right? So now you're just taking what appears to be a five swing structure and just saying, okay, it's a 3. It's an A, B, C. Well, even that is, you're on the edge here. Okay, maybe you can get a 5 in here. You're already stretching to get that done. Looks like a 1, 2. Looks like there's an impulse there, so you'd be thinking A, B, C. Okay, W, X, Y into the W. Can't do that. So now you'd be thinking A, B, C. I'm just going to live with it. Okay, well, maybe I'm going to be thinking A, B, and I'm going to get a 1, 2, 3. Do I really have it? Don't really have it. So you're already just right out of the gate. You got a problem here. It's not quite an impulse, not quite a diag. Oh, and just to cap it off, you'd want to be checking. Oh, maybe it is a diag, right? But 5 not longer than 3. So you're in a bit of a conundrum here. You can't call it can't call it an impulse, can't call it a leading diag. So what are you left with? You're kind of stuck with the WXY, A, B, C, and even that iffy, right? So it's you're going to have to compromise in here, which shouldn't be like, oh well, the Elliott is no good. If you can't make it work on every single chart that you ever pulled up, well then fuck that. My Elliott's not perfect. The market is imperfect, right? There's no. My view is you got to work with the swing structure that the market's offering here, but to try and stay, well, at least to produce an alternative that would be more bullish, because the leading diag, if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so that would be some sort of a B, or we're working on the B before we'd go down for the C, is extremely bearish, right? So what is there a bullish alternative, which is really where I was going with this? Could I get this done here as a WXY? Now this is a little bit cleaner. Once we get off of the rough start here, I am on a 60-minute. Once we get off the rough start here, this impulse looks solid. There's a little bit of a Elliott shuffle you've got to do here to make sure 3 is the longest. So you're going to have to go A, expand the B into the C for the 2 here to get your 3, 4, 5 of the internal 3. A little bit of an Elliott shuffle, but it plays, right? That's not, I wouldn't call that, a force fit. It's accommodating the market kind of a fit. But 1, 2, 3, 4, good finish on the 5. The ABC is solid, and it's technical, right? We've looked at this last week. No, pardon me. Was it here? Oh, I think you know what it was. I think it was in the futures, right? We went golden zone, but on the index here, we stay just underneath it. Right, more challenges. Nice looking trend line that comes down here. Now, if this is the B and this is the C, the finish here is, again, solid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the internal 3, 4, 5. It's all good, all good. Now, this is where we get a little funky. Now, okay, could it be A, B, and we're starting into the 1, 2? Well, you can certainly see how this could be interpreted as a 5. Again, it's not perfect. Okay, is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Well, if you look at it, it's not a clean impulse. Right, you're kind of stuck going, what am I doing here? 1 A B C into the 2, 3, 4, 5. It's you're force fitting already right out of the chute. 1, 2 A B. It's not clear, right? There is no easy answer here, and as you've heard me say many times, when the Elliott is not clear, you have to ask yourself, is it helping, right? Is it creating a paralysis of analysis? Are you just worse off applying it here? This is borderline here, because you just don't have clean Elliott here. Even here, you'd have to go A, B, C, because you've got just a straight lunar shot here. So you'd have to call that impulsive. So you got to go A, expand the B into the C for the B. 1, 2, 3. You're a little bit of an Elliott shuffle to get that done. It's a struggle, right? So the danger here for a student is to say, well, it doesn't work on every chart. Is that really what the requirement is for your technical approach, that it works on every chart at all times? I might encourage you to rethink that. Nothing is 100%. Nothing is perfect. Elliott certainly no exception, although it's as good as anything that I've found. And while we have a chart here where we can't get a clean read on it, it doesn't mean that it's not potentially helpful to us. So if we lean into the swing structure and look at this and say, okay, well this has the potential to be a one wave here. So even the one wave is a bit of a bitch to get done. How are you getting that done, right? So you'd have to work backwards. So this would have to be the 5. This would have to be your 4 coming back for the. So shit, how you doing it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Even that is a struggle. It looks more like it's an ABC. So now you'd be thinking, oh, right, is this what I've got here? Is this a Jesus? Can I even get that done? Is this ABC here, and we're doing a diag? That might be your first thought, which is part of why I thought for the candidate for this to be a diag for an AB. Well, once we did this, right, that became no longer an easy solution. So you might think, oh, is the one here? That doesn't quite work either, right? So you're really at a conundrum here. So at this point, your choice is, well, I'm not going to trade it until I get clarity, or I'm going to work with the implied swing structure, which I think is often what an Elliottician will do. Is that a 5? 1, 2, can't quite get it done. If I not to belabor the point here, but if I go with a 1. And this would be the 4. 1. If I go 1, 2, 3, I'm overlapping, right? So I can't do that. So I can't go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into the 3 without the overlap. It's a bit of a bitch, right? So you're kind of stuck here going, what do I need here to get this done? Well, I think you can go with the implied structure here. This certainly looks like a good 3. I got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've got an impulse here. I think a lot of times what you're trying to do is just identify where we can see clean Elliott, right? I can see it there. Okay, A, B, clear C. So I've got a what have I got there? Do I have a zigzag? Iffy, right? So it's probably high enough. You could probably do it as a flat 3, 3, 5. But you're really leaning into the 5. 3, 3, 5. Looks like it. So I can go into a W. Well, here you're kind of working with what's there. A, B, C. Looks like that's doable. All right, now I do recognize as I'm sitting here 22 minutes in, you got to be into this stuff, right? You got to be into solving the puzzle, or you probably checked out long ago. If you're not into this, the challenge of this, yeah, I completely understand. You got to be, drawn to it, to solving the puzzle. Can you do it? I'd be perfectly honest, I can't solve it without a compromise here, and I've been trying for several hours here. But let's go with what I think is our best solution as it sits right now, which is that we've gone a 1 and we're going to do a WXY into a 2. And now coming off of that, I do get a valid leading diag. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is longer than 3. 3 is longer than 1. So I've got a good leading diag here coming out of the chute here. Now, if this is if this is the 1 and we're going to do it through this WXY to get her done over here, well, I'm going to, from the Elliott perspective, I'm going to pull from that 1 to see how I look here. Now, you've heard me say many times the algo doesn't care about your Elliott count, right? It's just going to go dominant to dominant, right? So we'd come in here, we're in the pocket, right? Prior support, become support again, we wick the 50, but then we come out of here with a clear 5, and we're clean on the Elliott. So for you bulls, and we had... It'll be interesting to see how the market reacts to the employment numbers today. Pretty much at expectation. This market could go either way off of that. But if this is 1, 2, and this is 1, if we're done here, if we're done here, you'd be anticipating that we'd get a little correction here. So maybe that's the start of it. Maybe we go here. I'd want to see how does the market react on Monday. Are we going to launch here? Well, then you might be rethinking this. Or just or counting it differently. I mean, perhaps you're doing something like this. A, B, C into the 1, 2. Let's see how high that goes. But we're not there yet. Right now, as it sits here, remember an Elliott count is always just a snapshot in time. Right? At this moment in time, looks like we've got a leading diag coming off of this pivot. Now, what is interesting here, and I'm going to wrap here, I know I'm belaboring the point here, is the obvious level here that appears to be its support, its resistance, its support, its resistance, support, resistance. And you should just tee that up. It's 4105. So it's hard not to look at that and say, well, there's something, that level. And then it made me think, well, maybe if I go from the top to the low here, how close are we to that? Is it exactly halfway? Not quite. Not quite. You can see how that algo is playing here, although it's doing it in reverse order, right? This is not a golden zone for that pivot, right? Because this is the pivot. But it's interesting, right? So it just seems like just your eye is drawn to that 4105. Well, lo and behold, guess where max pain is for the S&P going into next week? 4105. This is it used to be free. I think you can get here as free. So it's just optioncharts.io. I have no relationship with the guy. Just a nice little service that he provides. I think he does now have a paid plan here, but it's very, very inexpensive. So this is 4105 is max pain for the options that are expiring on the 10th, which might explain why we're sitting right here at max pain at 4105. Be interesting to see how that rallies next week, but I don't think there's anything to do here. If I were looking for a swing trade here, I'd be waiting for the retrace, right? I'm a retracement trader, so I'm going to wait for that to come in, maybe something down here, looking for that. Right? That's what I would wait for, right? Not knowing that I'm risking the thing to running away from me, because at some point a correction, it can be a long wait, but at some point a correction always comes, right? Just that's something you can count on. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So no trade here. So shit, you're just giving me three charts with no trades. Why am I wasting my time here? Okay, all right, I get it. I feel you. Let's go to something a little bit more interesting over here. Let's go to Tesla. I'm not positive that this is any easier, but perhaps a cleaner setup for a potential trade. You've got some similar challenges here, right? The market is tricky right now. Can we do this through a 3-3-5? Well, I can get a clean impulse. It's kind of the same thing, right? I mean, Tesla trades, you might as well be trading the S&P, right? It's so incredibly liquid, it moves so well. But you've got plenty of different ways to approach trading it. Looking here, it looks like that's pretty clearly a 3. Oh, and this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is pretty solid. So the 3, 3, 5 seems like a reasonable W. A, B, C into the X. 1, 2. Well, actually, it looks to me like you'd have to go 3. You might have a slight truncation there, actually, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That might be a slight trunk. Now, trunk is junk, right? It's a last resort here, but it does look like you're going to have one there, because you got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? There's a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a little diag here that finishes it. It's tricky, right? So then I get it. It doesn't matter. Well, let's go WXABC into the Y, right? So I've got WXABC into the Y, right? So I've got a good candidate here for a pivot low. Now I'm out of log scale. I know there's a pivot in here that's interesting in log scale. That's the 38. Maybe it's here. One of these was, yeah, there it is. Right to the 50. Right to the 50 here. Okay, so is this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Kind of looks like a candidate. Right, coming off of this. No, let's go 1, 2, 3, triangle, 5. Let's take that up. Something you can see. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's out of curiosity. I don't think it's too far, right? So there's your high probability zone for a 3, which we split log scale. I think we're deep enough here to where you'd want to go ahead and complete this 3. That's a pretty good looking 4. Looks like looks like ABC into the 4, right? Also a slight truncation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5 gets that done. Now, A, B, C, W, X, A, B, C, Y. Now, the Y certainly much bigger than the X, or pardon me, than the W. But the free fall here is, I think, legit impulse. So we come down for the C into the Y. So 3, 4. Let's get over there. Let's dig in there a little bit. See if we've got a trade setting up here. A, B, C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boy, that's just a straight lunar shot, isn't it? Let's take it out of log here since we're looking at a smaller range here. So I've got 8. Shit, that's still pretty. Now let's stay out of log. I just make it give us more flexibility with what we can use. So I can use a regression channel right here, right? I want that impulse all self-contained, right? So that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I like the look of that. Now, looks like a 3, 3. Pardon me. ABC, ABC, ABC. So 3, 3, 3 gets me to a Y. It's shallow. The prior 3, 4, right? Good guideline as a reference. If we're complete here, you'd be looking for it a little deeper, but we don't make the 50. But you certainly wouldn't be disqualified. Now, coming off of that, let's dig in a little bit further into that 1. See if we've got a trade setting up here. Okay, so. Just for the time being here, let me hide all the order blocks here. 1, 2. Well, looks like I've got another 1 coming out of there. All right, so 1, A, B, C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into the 3. Got to go A, B, C here. We're spared the overlap, and then we've got the straight rip up to the 5th. So while this is a little bit of a shuffle, I think you got to go with it, right? So there's the 1, there's the 2. It's the same. Interesting, right? So we're just shy of the 1618 here, but I think you got to go with the implied swing structure there, which looks more like a 5. So per 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like that's what we've got coming out of there. Okay, now how about the correction? Well, it's sharp, and let's get pivot high to pivot low. Let's go back one just for fun. That's the 38. There it is. Okay, so A, B, and it looks like I'm good for the C. Let's dig in there a little bit further. So what do we have here, right? Perfect tag of the golden zone. A, B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 golden zone, and we get a little pop. So I think reasonable to say that you have a trade here. Now, we want to be mindful of the fact that this took this is a very abrupt correction, right? And there may be more complexity to it, but we don't want to overthink every trade, right? Or you'd never pull the trigger. The implication here looks like I've got a decent, while it's a little funky here, it looks like I've got a decent 1 wave here coming off of this complex correction. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'd be looking at, well, depending on your skill level and your knowledge base, I'd be looking at an option trade here. Now, you could keep it simple. Of course, there are a lot of variables that go into the pricing of an option here, but the one thing that we can count on is that with the abrupt move down here, puts are going to be more expensive relatively than calls. So this would not be a bad location to be looking at buying some at the money or slightly in the money calls here in the between 180, 185, anywhere in that range, because you've got a very low, the premise that you're making here is that the pivot low is in at the golden zone. Right now, if it breaks, it breaks. But you'd want to exit because your premise is being invalidated. If this is not going to play as a sharp correction, and certainly it could be a W. Maybe there's an X and then a Y. We're going to go deeper. So you can't eliminate those possibilities here. But I do think you've got a reasonable trade here to where you could get in, I don't think you have to be overly complex here. Well, it's a couple of things. Actually, what I would do, I would buy at the money. I would buy at the money calls, and if I got a pop at it, just to reduce the risk, I would want to wait until the market starts to go up a little bit, right? So if we're going to get a 3, then those out of the money calls are going to start to get a little juicier, and you'll get some more premium there. I might look to sell something up here at maybe a 200. If I'm long, call it the 182, so anywhere between 180 and 185, I might look to sell at the 200, anticipating that if I'm going to get a 3 here, I'm likely not to get it all at once. So said differently, let me get this out of here. I'd be anticipating that I'm going to have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of a 1 before I go 2, before I go into the big 3. So I think might be overly optimistic and overly aggressive to think, oh, I'm going to go right into a big 3, and this is just going to rocket launch. Now, the other thing that we can put on this as a guideline is that we can put a set of median lines, because I have a golden corner. Get all this out of here. Push this off to the side. Okay, so I have a golden corner, meaning, right, as I probably said, I don't know how many thousands of times, I've got 80% probability here that as long as this pivot holds, that is always the key, I've got 80% probability of getting to that median line. Now, I may not get it. I may get it here. I may get it out here. I may get it in 2027. But I've still got 80% probability of getting there. Here's the ideal scenario. We'd essentially be putting in a double top up here, right? If we did something like that. 1, 2. Is that going to be 3? Probably not. Where's 3's target? Way up here, 251, right? Because I can use the golden here. No, that's going to be 1618. If this is 1, 2, now, again, that's what I'm suggesting here. There's going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get there. Most likely, right? Again, nobody knows, right? But if we're using our wave structure here to make a prediction on potential path for price, if this is a 1, 2, and I'm in a golden, pretty good projection there. So that's a trade that I'd be looking for. Barring just a complete sell-off on Monday morning, or anytime Monday, I guess. Barring any sort of break that takes out that pivot low, I'm going to put that trade on myself. And I'd probably just start with at-the-money calls, looking to turn it into a spread. Because the risk here is so low that if it breaks that 65, I'm just going to take the small loser and move on to the next trade. Or wait and see, well, is it WX, Y, and then reload here? Because I'm looking for the big 3. Oh, let's see, how am I doing? 37. I'll show you one other here that... Oh, our newest sensei, PKS Avenda, who's, again, I reference him a lot because he's been so instrumental to helping me with the brown belt, bringing his skill set. This is one that he drew my attention to. AI, of course, is the hot technology. I think that's probably not doing it credit. For everything I read would tell me that this is going to completely change the world, right? So it's more than just the next hot technology. This is certainly going to be a part of our experience going forward here, and where it is today, which is pretty astonishing if you've dabbled with it at all, to where it's going to be 5-10 years from now is borderline scary, borderline exciting. It's certainly going to permeate everything we do. So there's going to be, well, I think most of you would recognize there are billions of dollars going into this industry right now. So there's going to be some big winners. This is one here because you can. This is traded on the New York Stock Exchange. This is C3.ai. Kind of an interesting chart pattern here. So it looks like you've got. At first glance, it looked like maybe this was going to go this direction here, but we get this very clear flat here where it looks like we've got to go A, B, C, but since we didn't do an impulse here and we have this massive correction here, which is interesting. It's hard not to see this, right? It's not hard not to see the box here, the big push up, and then literally gave 100% of it damn near to the tick all back. Now, that could be, right, for if this is going to go, the potential is certainly there for this to go. It hasn't been around that. Oh, shit. Let's get to a daily. It hasn't been around that long. Right, we're going back to 2020. Let's get it now back popped up here. Oh, there's not a, well, we could go to Log Scout. Pop it up a little bit. We're opening it up here. 1, 2, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A, B, C into an A, B, and then just a straight waterfall C. So it looks like you've got kind of an ugly flat. But so it's 3, 3 free fall. Right? That's what we end up with. It would appear at this moment in time. Right? Remember, Elliott, just a snapshot in time. Well, if that's the case, let's go back to that. Let's go back to that 4 hour here. I see I've got an alert on it because this is a trade I'm going to take as well. I'll probably start in options, see if I like it. Although I might just buy the underlying here. 1, 2. Well, let's go to a 60. All right, because that's the trigger I'm looking for, 22.24. If it hits that, well, then I'm in. So let me, oh shit, here I'm going to, oh shit, I guess it doesn't matter. Is that a 1? Working for a 2. I just want to be alerted when I get down to the 50. And I'm kind of, you can see here, I'm using the structure here. So, okay, when we get here, I want them in the edge of value, right? If I get right down to this level here, I'm interested in taking a bite at it, right? I might do a combo of some options and some spot. I'm not sure. We'll see what it looks like when it gets there, but I don't really have much of a 3. Maybe I'd like to see a little come down a little bit lower. I got underneath. RSI is rolled over here from the upper Bollinger here. You're flat here. There's no real momentum clue, so I kind of want to see how it opens. Do we get a little dip lower here that would fire that? That'd be one that you might want to consider as well, right? Priced reasonably enough here that you could buy the underlying or trade in the options market if that's your preference here. It's a tricky chart. Tricky. Okay, I think that's everybody I got. Just quickly looking, I think that's all I had. Okay, right, so we hit Bitcoin, ETH pretty quickly. The SPX is the complicated. We'll have to see where that goes. Tesla, I think, is a clean setup here, waiting for that retrace. And the same thing with AI. Give me that little retrace here. Like I always want to put it on sale for me, and then I'm going to buy it. All right, guys, there you go. That's 42 minutes. Give us enough to have a few things to consider, maybe a few things to put on your watch list. Reminder, the idea here is just to demonstrate the methodology, not necessarily, although I like to when I can, offer up an area of interest for a trade. I'm not, it's not financial advice. It's for educational purposes only. I'm just suggesting that if you're using this methodology, this would be an area of interest. Same thing with Tesla. All right, guys, there you go. That'll give you something to chew on, and we'll be back. Let's see. I'll be back for a live stream on Wednesday over here on TDI. We do our live streams on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which is all oriented towards our Ninja trading platform tool suite. And really the focus is on the S&P, day trading the S&P. Okay, guys, with that, I'll wish you a good remainder of your weekend, a happy Easter for those of you that celebrate it, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday. Okay, have a good one, guys.